Michelle, welcome to the My Tribe podcast. Can you number one, thank you for your time. I'm so appreciative of you coming on and grateful for your time, your presence in my life, and just want to give you the floor, give you a little introduction for yourself. Go.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm happy to support you and to be here on this amazing little show that you're creating. And I feel honored and blessed to be part of it. So, so thank you. And yeah.
Of course. I mean, a
Uh-oh.
lot of the reason, I spoke previously about how and why I'm deciding who I would love to invite on. It's a lot of people that are either inspirational, that are insightful, that have helped me on my journey, or people that I just think are generally interesting. I think their story would benefit many others. So I know you've helped me a ton when I first moved down here. I had zero connections and idea of what I was doing in my life, but I joined a yoga studio and I went every day and I met the amazing owner of that yoga studio, which was Bombay Yoga Room. And that's kind of where we find ourselves here today. How did you find yourself at Bombay?
Well, that is a magical story, and I will be happy to share that. That my journey actually started in Central Florida. I was in Central Florida when my yoga journey actually started. I had previously worked in the corporate world for all my life. And then I was moved out of the state for a year, which was a stepping stone in me getting out of the corporate world and into a place where I would reinvent myself and not knowing exactly what that was going to look like, but having a little experience in the world of yoga from my friend who had started her journey, and also just coming from a background of dance and gymnastics. So I decided that I wanted to dive in a little deeper into that practice and see what it was about. So I started inquiring about a yoga teacher training program, and that in which I did a 1 month intensive program in Boca Raton, Florida, and was trained in yoga. And then I moved to Central Florida, where my family was, and I started that journey there. So I started teaching at some of the local studios. Actually, I first started teaching at LA Fitness, and then got into the yoga studios. Well, in that whole time that I was in Central Florida, I really didn't love being in that area and wanted to move to South Florida because that's where I've lived most of my life. And I wanted to particularly be in Fort Lauderdale because it was just between Miami and West Palm. And I was a central place. I had friends in Fort Lauderdale at that time, and all my friends were in South Florida. So I just really wanted to be back here. Central Florida just wasn't my place. I didn't feel home there, so I really wanted to make my way back here, but I had no idea how that would ever happen because I'm starting my life all over again. I really don't want to get another corporate job, and loving the teaching yoga and making a difference in other people's lives in whichever way that I could. And also, so just really educating myself on how the law of attraction works and how energy, frequency, and vibration works, so that way I could line myself up in the best way possible to get to where I wanted to be. And again, not knowing exactly how that was going to work out, but realizing, of course, through that process that it is not our job to figure out the how. So I did my part in just working on me to become my best self while doing all the practices that I was trained into, not just in yoga, but learning about gratitude and appreciation and starting to live your life in a full state of gratitude, to be focused on, more the things that you want to create and be the deliberate creator of your life rather than be the victim of your life, and focusing on best case scenarios rather than worst case scenarios. And so I often envisioned myself living in Fort Lauderdale by the beach, and teaching yoga. And I created a mind movie that was something that was special that I dove into. That was a vision board, but it's a mind movie that you make on the computer, and you take different pictures and little maybe video clips. If you want, you can create affirmations on them. And I would watch that mind movie a lot, like morning and night. I was really into, like, if I am the creator of my reality, then I'm going to work this out. And what do I have to lose? Because it all makes me feel good. It all is positive. It all feels light. So I wanted to, dive into that and see what would come of it. And in 2017, after my practices in yoga, which I was trained into understanding the practice of meditation. And from the people that I had followed, all had mentioned that meditation is the key. So I thought, all right, well, that's it. I'm gonna bunker down and I'm gonna just do it. We're gonna go full on now. So I just started a meditation practice every day, starting January 1st, 2017. And I really just didn't miss a day. I would do my meditation, then I would go to the gym and I would work out. And I remember specifically in that workout, and I'd be on the elliptical or whatever, and sometimes I would just close my eyes and I was just living my life in Fort Lauderdale. I was just visualizing the whole thing, like how I would feel, and I was excited about this idea, and I was changing the energy inside of me, not even knowing what I was really doing. I was just getting excited about like a possibility. That's it, just a possibility. Still having zero clue. I had no money, I had nothing. So it seems like there's no possibility here, right? But I'm just believing in a possibility so much that I'm feeling that energy, and I just feel so alive, so good. So after 6 months of doing that, I guess that was proof enough to the universe that I had shifted some things dynamically. But really, in that time frame, like, I didn't know anything was changing, because in my personal reality of things, it didn't seem like on a day-to-day anything was like specifically changing. But I mean, of course, I just was feeling good, but I worked on feeling good. It was like a deliberate practice to feel good, because I understood energy, and to get positive, I have to feel good and be positive. So to get the outcome that I'm asking for, then I need to be in the vibrational state of that. So it was a deliberate practice to be in gratitude and to feel good and to see the good of life. So that was my deliberate practice. But 6 months later down the road is really when the magic started to happen. So that was it, when I had got a phone call from my friend who lives in Fort Lauderdale and worked at a yoga studio in which I was a student at as well at times, because when I would go down to Fort Lauderdale to visit her, I would stay at her house. She taught the Friday night class, and I would go to Bombay Room Yoga and take her class, and then I'd stay at her house, and I'd have a weekend with her and go back up to Central Florida. So she calls me one day and says that the owner of Bombay Room Yoga wants to sell the business, and she's offering it as an idea to me that maybe that's a possibility for me, that I could buy the studio. And it was like, wow. The studio is where? Fort Lauderdale. So it's kind of mind-blowing. It's not in Boca Raton, it's not in Delray, it's not in Miami, it's not in anywhere else that I would ever want it to be. I focused on being in Fort Lauderdale specifically. And where is this yoga studio? In Fort Lauderdale, across the street from the beach. Imagining myself doing yoga on the beach, right? So these were the things. I wasn't looking for a yoga studio to buy. I was in an area that I didn't want to live in, so I wasn't looking for any spaces there to really set myself up, because I didn't want to live there. However, the universe also knew my desire because I would look at places and be like, well, that would be a nice spot for a yoga studio, but I wouldn't want to open one here because I don't want to live here.
This is
So
this is all happening while you were in Central Florida.
correct.
Okay.
So in that same year, my grandfather had a trust fund for all of the grandkids, and that trust fund was for all the grandkids to go to school, to go to college with. But I just wasn't really a school college person, so I didn't utilize that money to do that. So the money was just lingering in that trust. Well, that year, my aunt, who was the power of attorney, decided to dissolve that trust. And so, therefore, I would have the money to buy the business and move to Fort Lauderdale. So that came out of nowhere because really that money was not supposed to be dispersed until my son turned 30. My son's only 29. So technically, I wouldn't have gotten that money till next year, 2024, is when that money should have been dissolved, not 2017. But yeah. So lining it all up. And again, this is like part of the mystical that comes with practicing meditation is that once again, I wasn't trying to figure out how it was going to unfold. That wasn't my job. My job was to be my best self every day, to raise my vibrational state, to be in a state of gratitude and appreciation for what I have and for the ideas of what is possible, and focusing more on those possibilities and less of the limitations, and just believing that every day I'm going to do the work and that something's unfolding, and whether it does or not, I feel good every day, and that's all that really matters, is that I feel good. So I'm just living my life in a high vibrational state that feels good, and that's all I had to do. But it was about like taking time away from the outside world and connecting to my inner world and really spending time and getting to know myself and who I've been and who I really want to be. So that meditation practice really was the key, the magic, to get out of my own head and allow the universe to conspire the people and the things and the situations to move into the direction. This is what we call moving mountains, right? When we say they say you move mountains. Well, this is how you move mountains, because the universe conspired the people, like all of a sudden, the studio owner wants to sell the business. That was moving a mountain, like that was making a way, right? Where there was no way.
Mhm.
So it was very magical that all that conspired. And then, of course, this sale took place. And then the sale, even for the attorney, said it was the most easy, effortless sale. And when you know that it's divine, when it's easy and effortless, it just happens so organically and naturally. It was like so easy. So it was not a question that this was divine and what was meant to be. So of course I move here to Fort Lauderdale and I start taking over the business of Bombay Room Yoga. And now we're here almost 6 years later. And of course, there's so much more magic that has come from even that point. And that continues to unfold, of course. So that's part of how I came to Bombay. That was a long story, but that was the story and all of the details that came along with it.
It's an amazing story. Well, thank you. That's the point of it is to be long and to be detailed and to really, I think that somebody else who may be teeter on the edge of starting a business or taking that leap of faith or thinking about changing careers could benefit a lot from this story. How old were you when this transition started, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, what point of your life were you in? Because it's not easy. These transitions people happen in all areas of their life. Where were you when this was around about happening?
This was, well, technically about 10 years ago. So I was about 35 36 years old,
Hmm.
which is a good amount of a time when people get, yeah, the corporate world is like a prison, and so you get sucked into the prison of the corporate world, and it does suck you in because it's and they offer benefits and they offer vacation time, and I had an amazing job and I had amazing vacation and benefits. Like I had the whole, but I just did not like the work. And I just sat there every day contemplating my life as a human being and coming to this earth and sitting in a cubicle and working for somebody else, and that I would do this for my entire life and then retire and die. That just didn't seem the reason why I came to this planet.
And die.
Because and die. People, they had been at my job. I was there for 10 years at that time. So if I
Mhm.
was 35 about the time I quit, I was 25 when I started that job. That's about that
It
timeline,
was
25
time
to 35
invested.
time
Yeah.
invested. But there's people there 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50. I mean, this was like you stayed in this. And I'm
Wow.
like, I cannot fathom doing this my entire life. Like,
Mhm.
there's just no way that I came to this planet to do this kind of work and to be in a prison for the rest of my life. Like, I can't fathom that. And I think my ideas of that opened up the doors for me. And at those times as well, I had already ventured into the law of attraction and understanding that we are the creators of our reality. And once I started to understand that, I really started to practice it from day one. I learned of The Secret, which was the biggest phenomenon back in the day. The Secret, the book,
Mhm.
um, Rhonda Byrne. But that was really the book that really transformed my life, to be honest. And I was at the lowest point of my life at that time, and I picked up that book, and the grass became green again, the sky was blue again, like the dark of my life started to turn light, because I realized that I do have power and control over my thoughts and what I focus on, and I can be a deliberate creator. And I think that's the key point to all of this, that all the time, is that when we are remembering that we are the creators, then you step into your power as a creator. And when you forget that you're the creator, you are the victim of life. So that's kind of the trap that people fall into. And in the corporate world, it's hard because you have to take a leap of faith and you have to trust. And that is like the biggest part of all of this all the time, is diving into the unknown and not knowing, but trusting that it's all going to unfold. So understandably so, but like I guess I was wise in a way that I had not even knowing what I was exactly doing, but you kind of know what you want. I was somewhat settled into the corporate world. I didn't know how I'd ever get out of that, but like what I was focused on at that time was really building a relationship with somebody. I did have some sort of stability and security in being there. I didn't like it, but whatever. I was single and I was looking for somebody to be with. So that was really what happened for me, was in that wanting of a relationship and knowing I didn't want to work in corporate. I kind of like had this idea that I just wanted to be a housewife. And I like the idea of like, not going to work every day and just being a housewife, and being there for my husband if that would be the case. And lo and behold, that's literally what happened. I manifested a husband, and that's what got me out of the corporate world. So that became the stepping stone. And, that's exactly what happened. So we got together. It was all magic in the beginning. And he had a job offer in Georgia, so we moved to Georgia, and I left my job and ecstatically, and we started a little bit of a life in Georgia, and I became that housewife that I had desired. So the wanting of one thing became my reality, and really I created that, right? I literally created that. And so if we're never stuck, right? But we have to be open to possibilities, right? And I wasn't like grasping on that it had to happen that way. I had no idea that it would happen that way. I was just like, this is a thought, just like the studio was like, how did I know it would ever actually come into fruition? I would never have dreamt in a million years that I would be the owner of this studio, and that door would have opened and money would have fallen to my lap to make that happen. I would have never dreamt in a million years that I would have actually met another human being that would be my husband, I would be the housewife of, and that would get me out of the corporate world. I just, it was just like, but I contemplated on those ideas without the attachment that it had to happen. And that's the biggest key there, is like the attachment that it has to happen is resistance in that. And we will not get what we want if we're attached to that idea. So it has to be free flow energy. It has to be harmonious energy that is just regulated in the trust that it will all unfold as it will in its own timing. So it just happened. And so then I had that stepping stone, and then the relationship didn't work out, but that was divine, because the universe had a bigger plan, because I had a bigger plan, knowing that I wasn't here on this planet, right, to just work for somebody. Excuse me. And then the relationship not rolling out the way it was supposed to, or the way I thought it was going to, that opened up a whole new world for me, because of that. That's why I delved into the idea of being a yoga teacher and going down that route, and then that led me along my path that has gotten me to here and where I am now. So it's literally, this is when we look at our past and the people of our past. And at the time I was heartbroken and I was really sad and I was depressed for a year, but like I would give thanks for that every day, because I am living a bigger purpose now, and I am way more fulfilled in my life than I've ever been. And I feel one of the lucky ones, that I get to do what I love. I love what I do, and not many people really, really get to experience that in this lifetime. But it is available for us all because we're all here as the creator of our own reality. So as you begin to create evidence, and I call all of these physical manifestations evidence, and evidence is the loudest voice. So once you have evidence that the work that you're putting into the meditation practice, into your self-development and investing in yourself and really growing yourself and having the evidence unfold like that, you build trust. So you trust more in the unknown than you didn't as somebody who's just starting. It's harder to have that trust, which is why most people won't just sit down and have a meditation practice. They don't understand they don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand the why, and they don't really trust that it would unfold so divinely for them, so magically, so effortlessly. So things fall into your lap. You don't have to go anywhere to get them. I didn't go anywhere to get any of that. It all just fell into my lap, was like, here. So easy, so effortless. Like you couldn't even dreamt that up. Mm-hmm. So that's the way it works. It's like it's not predictable. You couldn't have predicted that. And if you can't predict it, it's the known. So that means if you're predicting it, it's the known, then you're in your head trying to work it out. That means you're working out the how. How's it going to happen? How's it going to happen? And you're trying to calculate space and time, and you're trying to do it changing matter, rather than being in the realm of the quantum field where all possibilities exist, getting out of your own way and letting the all-knowing, wise, source of life work it out in the most divine way that you could ever imagine. Like, I like to play in that field because I think it's so much more rewarding, and it's so much more fun and exciting. And when you get those synchronicities and they all line up for you, I mean, what is better than that? What is better than that? Like, living in the bliss with life, feeling good every day, feeling whole, feeling joyous, feeling complete, feeling it's alive, and your cup is full and overflowing. You just want to share that with the world. Imagine if everybody was living a life like that. But most people are living their life stressed, anxiety, full of worry and doubt and scared, and living in guilt and shame and all these emotions that like keep them stuck to this identification of who they are and their lack of limitations. And they're, of course, the victim of themselves and life and everybody else. So that's what I'm here for, is that I really take hold of the practice, and I just naturally have applied it to my own life and had allowed the unfoldment to be, as that which it is. And I am blessed, but I create the blessings because I do the work. Yeah. So
Mhm. And thank you for all of that. That's a lot to unpack in a beautiful
it's a
way.
lot to unpack.
But I want to go back to the evidence. You were expressing how when you start to see the evidence of your work, then that inspires you to keep doing it.
Right.
What was some of the, I guess, early evidence for you that really started? Because everybody kind of reaches a crossroad in their life, and they, enough is enough. Kind of over the whole partying and the corporate world and the so on and so forth, and but they don't really have a direction which way to go. So how did you, before you got into this realm, or I get, how did your eyes start get open to the world of this unlimited potential? What was the first sign of evidence for you, I guess, is my question. It was a significant sign of evidence.
Mhm. Well, I feel like the first evidence was when I had that relationship, I wanted to be a housewife. Like, that was evidence, that what I was doing was working. I was I was, focused. I was deliberate in a way, So it was just like that is physical evidence, things unfolding like that. That was the evidence that, okay, like, I wanted that, and it happened.
Mhm.
That's a physical manifestation. You know what I mean? Like, that's the evidence. I wanted to move to Fort Lauderdale, and it happened with me being the owner of the yoga studio and that which I was practicing, and could have never dreamt that I would actually just, that's the evidence. The physical manifestations of that is the evidence.
Sure. And now, before the relationship, was it, you were corporate world, just so I got the timeline right. Corporate world,
Right.
struggling a bit, in the prison, so to say, gotten enlightened, but not enlightened or whatever, picked up The Secret, then
It started on that.
okay, I'm trying to like just gauge it in the sense of where, and then it was, I want to be a housewife, evidence, got that. Now
Right.
more.
It's
I want
evidence.
more. I want more. And now you are to where you are today. That was
Right.
correct, I guess, alignment there.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, those are the physical manifestations are your evidence. That's the evidence that what you're doing is working. I want something and I got it. I didn't
Hmm.
go anywhere to get it. It fell in my lap. I didn't try to go get it anywhere. It just happened. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, I know what you
Yeah.
mean. Certainly. I
Yeah.
want to speak to the skeptics that are, skeptical. Now, what's the difference to you, between evidence and a coincidence?
Well, I don't think that there are coincidences. Like, I think that everything is lined up, and that everything, is being worked out. There are no accidents. That everything is unfolding, and we either are tuned in or we're not. That's it. And most of us are walking along not being tuned in because we have been conditioned to focus more upon the outer world than the inner world. And so that's really the syndrome of the humankind in itself, is that we're not tuned in to the source that is going to lead and guide you divinely. And people don't trust in that because, well, we haven't really been taught. We don't really understand it. And we're taught in realms of religion and things that people don't, it doesn't resonate with them because it's very hypocritical and it's judgmental. And so people don't like that. And that's really what kind of led me away from that as well. But finding a different pathway and understanding just the science behind it and the respect that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And if you go into the science of it, then it just really starts to make more sense. And then you're not like dabbling with, these questions of like religion or this or that or the other. It's just pure science. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. And even Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, to think in terms of energy, frequency, vibration. So if we really start to dive down to those three things and understand wholeheartedly that everything is that, what you pay attention to, you expand, you create more of, energy flows where attention goes. I mean, there's nothing more to understand. Lock down that, you master your thoughts and what you focus on and think about, you become the master of your emotions. You master all of that, you master your life. I mean, there's nothing more to it. But I get it because we're not taught how that works. And we are driven on, ego and the outer world and materialism and all that kind of things. And we put more emphasis on those kind of things rather than, and we do it the hard way then, because then you have to work and you have to work hard and you might have to get 2 jobs to get it. And you have to save up this amount. You got to save up this much money and know, like, you have a timeline. It's going to take me this long to get all that. If whatever the case is, that could be where people's minds are. But like, I had no way. I had no money. I had no way. I had nothing. Money wasn't supposed to be coming to next year, 2024, right? I had no way. I had nothing.
So now, did you ask for that from your aunt, or that kind of unfolded on?
No, she just decided that my grandfather had already passed, and she had just decided that she just didn't want to do it anymore. She just didn't want to be part of, like, okay, the distributions, and this one, my cousin, this one's going to school and I got to write a check for this one. She just didn't want to do it anymore. So she just decided to dissolve the partnership, the trust. And in that, the money was dispersed to whoever had money left. And it was like, voila, do what you want. And so I didn't ask for that. I would never have asked. I used some of that money for my school. They did allow me to use that for some of the schools that I went to, yoga teacher training and some other things that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the point is that I did not, again, ask for any of it. And how divine timing was that, right? I mean, if it happened any other time, it wouldn't have worked out.
That's true. That's true. I mean, if you would have gotten that money 5 years earlier, what would have been spent on?
Oh, anything and everything, right? Anything and everything. But because it's like the universe will make a way when there's no way. It's hard for a lot of people to trust in that, because they need to be the control factor. They need to be the one that figures it out. But that's the hard way. And I like things easy and effortless. It's more fun. It's more magical, And then when it comes along and it's better than you could have ever imagined it to be. I mean, I didn't just move to Fort Lauderdale. I got a yoga studio, being the owner and living my dream and making a difference in the lives of other people and having that fulfillment. Like, it wasn't just about moving to Fort Lauderdale, but like, that's all I was really technically focused on. But then this came like the cherry on top of it. right? I mean, and this isn't the end of all the little magic that's happened since then. There is plenty more and it still unfolds. But the point is that like these are the evidence. Those physical manifestations are the evidence. And once you start getting a little taste of it, you're like, okay, this works. And what did I do? You know, you always go back. Well, what did I do? Well, I sat and I did a meditation. You know, I read, you know, Michael Singer's book, the Surrender Experiment too. This was after I already had the studio even, but like that unfoldment in his life is so magical. Like, it's like, why would we not do it? It's the question, you know? And it's just because we're not believers. We don't believe in it. That's all I can say. Because it takes patience, it takes due diligence, it takes a discipline to trust in something that you have no idea how anything's actually going to work out from. Because we want to predict it. We want to predict it and calculate it and measure it. We want all that. Yeah. Well, you let go of all that, then just let the magic unfold. That's the biggest piece.
So what I'm struggling with here is knowing you as a great friend, mentor in my life, which I'm so blessed to have. I know you to be very disciplined, very hardworking. You're a small business owner, and you know, you're a coach. I mean, there are so many, you know, avenues that you're so multifaceted. And I keep hearing you say effortless, effortless. And I know nothing but hard work from you. So I guess, can we get a glimpse of what that side looks like? Because I know, you know, in our relationship that there is effort that goes into this. It's not just, oh, well, I want this. There it is. So, I mean,
right. Okay, good question. Good. That's a good point.
yeah, I want you know, just dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so action has to be part of the equation, right? You can't just sit back and think about like things that you want and do nothing for it, right? Like even attracting my husband at that time, I was doing the online thing. So I would be online. I'm actively looking for somebody, right? I couldn't just wait for some Mr. Right to come knock on my door. Like when was that really that doesn't happen. And if it does, then that's probably a divine thing too. But still, there's some kind of a thing. But anyway, there's action that has to take place in that, right? You can't, it's not about just, we can't like just sit back and think that like everything's just gonna to come to us. There has to be some proactiveness within us to create these things. It's like, you know, you focus on it, but you also and you think about it and you feel the energy of it. But then there's also, you know, creating steps that bring things into fruition, right? But at the same time, it is effortless. Like, you know, the things that conspire, they come to you. So that's what I mean. It's not like I wasn't out there looking in the paper or online what yoga studios are being sold in Fort Lauderdale, what space is available in Fort Lauderdale that I could buy. You see, that's what I mean. I'm not actively seeking. That's what most people are doing. That's to me the hard way, right? You're like predicting things, you're making things happen, you're forcing things to happen. I want to buy a yoga. I didn't know that I wanted to buy a yoga studio, but again, it just kind of unfolded in that way. It has happened. So that was the effortlessness of it. But at the same time, I had mentioned that there was action steps still being taken on my own part to make these things happen in their own way. I was actively, first of all, visualizing in my mind a life of living that kind of a life down here in Fort Lauderdale anyway. When I did see spaces available, like in my neighborhood that I didn't want to live in, I did look in them and had the thought that I wouldn't mind having a yoga studio. So I just think that the universe, like, takes hold of all these thoughts and emotions that we have, and the desires of our heart. And then, just not forcing it, like not being like, oh, well, I have to make this happen. Like, and this is what I have to do to make it happen. Like, there was just none of that. That's what I mean. It was just so effortless and easy, So things just like kind of came into me. So like, just like, people just like have come into my life that have been angels, like just out of nowhere. They pop in, I need a help with something. And I'm not looking online on Facebook neighborhood stuff, or like they just show up and I'm like, oh wow, I really needed help with this, right? And then boom, it's like, oh, here I am, like a little angel out of nowhere, that just
What's an
floats into
example?
my life.
Give me an
Huh?
example. Give me an example of that.
Okay, so like one of the examples is Norm. Like Norm is like a little, I mean, I have lots, but Norm would be one, a really significant one, because I didn't really, Norm came to the studio. He came to the studio. He's a client. He takes classes here. Well, 2020 happens. We shut down and nobody knows what's going on. And my lease was up for renewal that year. It's 2020. And I had to renew the lease December. And I didn't know by September if we were renewing the lease. And we don't know what's happening in the world. I don't know what to do. Everything's shutting down. Do we stay open? Do I renew a lease? I don't know. I was just like in limbo at that time. Also, I do this work and I practice staying present and trusting the process. So there was all of that going on too. But, the universe is going to always provide, right? Especially if you're doing the work and trusting in it, that here it comes providing. So after a class at one point, this must have been after we had already been reopened, because we were shut down for 2 months, right? Within classes, we were able to reopen and we had people coming back into the studio, but I still had to make a decision on what was going to go on. I mean, yoga studios were closing down left and right. Everything was closing down left and right, so it was just an uncertain time.
Mm-hmm.
So not really knowing who Norm was, he one day just approached me after a class one day and said, and asked me if we could go to lunch one day and just talk about like how everything's going at the studio. I just want to know like how is everything, how's things with your landlord, what's going on with the lease, and those kind of things. And I was just like, wow, okay. Like, it was just kind of comforting in a way that I had a client who cared so much and I didn't even really know him that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we made a lunch date and we met, and I explained to him how the lease was going to be ending. And I needed to know if I was going to be renewing that lease in the next 3 years, or for the next 3 years. And Norm, who's in real estate, commercial real estate, he was able to guide me in a way. He just said, well, what do we have to do to make sure that Bombay stays? Because he believes in me and what we have at the studio so much that he was, wanting to know what he could do to help to make sure that we renew the lease and that we're not going anywhere. And that was the sign. That was the sign that said, you know what, that's all I needed to know. We're staying. We're renewing the lease. Like, his belief in me and the studio and like what we have going on here and him showing up, like that was the sign. But I took it as all of that. Like, I didn't go looking for anything for that to happen. Norm just came to me. He was at class. He was like, hey, how can I help? Those are things,
Wow.
and yeah. So like, then it was like, that's all I needed to know. So yes, thank you. And then he helped me. Like, he was like, I'm going to, help. Here's a template, write out a letter. I'll review it, make sure it's right. And then you send it off to the landlord. We'll renew that lease for the next 3 years. And here we are. You know what I mean? And so stuff like that could just comes to me all the time, just from like out of nowhere,
Wow, thank you for
out of
sharing.
nowhere.
That's a beautiful sentiment to your amazing client Norm. Norm's a friend of mine as well. Shout out Norm.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For him to approach you and take it upon himself to do that. Wow. Just to speaks to his character, but also speaks to, the vibration that you're on, what you're attracting and different things of that nature. I mean, a lot of what you're, previously talking about. Wow. Um, well, we are coming to the end, and I want to wrap up in a specific way here. I know you're a teacher, you're a coach, you're a yoga teacher, and you're very impactful in a lot of lives. And when we all have our day, we're gonna go. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to think of you when your time is up?
I just want to be an inspiration. I just want to be an inspiration that we are unlimited beings and that everything and all things are possible. That's I just really want to instill that belief system and knowing for all that all things are possible and that we are unlimited and we have unlimited potential within us. And if I can live my life as an example of that by doing the work inside to walk, walk the talk, talk the walk, whatever that is, but, live by example, have these magical unfoldments happen for, I mean, my own self to live in the bliss, but to really have that be an inspiration that shows that if what's possible for one is possible for all, and we all have access to the ease of life, and life is meant to be blissful, and it's meant to be enjoyable, and it's meant to be lived in a state of peace and joy and adventurous and excitement. And of course we're going to feel the emotional scale from the negative to the positive. We're here to have a full experience as a human being, but it is about us being the master of ourselves and being the master of our mind and our emotions, not our mind and emotions being the master of us. And that's just where we all get it wrong. And so through our continuous practice of awareness, we can shift that and then, be the master of ourselves and be the creator that we came here to be, because we came to create our life. And so we're creating whether we are aware of it or not. We're living on autopilot, creating on default, getting random events happening because we're not really paying attention, and things just happen to you. That's more the victim mentality of things. Like, it's just things happen to you and you're stuck in that realm. Or life is happening for you because you're the creator and you're writing the next chapter of your book. You are the captain of the ship, you are the pilot, you taking off here, you are the one who is the master and knowing like how things are going to unfold. And the best way to predict the future is to create it, and we create by being deliberate and on purpose. So most people just don't live a life of intention, and even a lot of people set intentions, but it doesn't go any further. Well, we really most haven't figured out the how. How do I incorporate this into my everyday life? And that's where personally I just do a lot of one-on-one work that is more impactful, because when I work with individuals and on that level, I can take these things and specifically apply it to their everyday life. So things that I would mention in a class or in the studio, and that's for a general whole, like we can really hone that in on a personal level and really apply it to somebody's life, that they really start to see the results, because it makes sense to them, and we can take those things and really customize them to each individual. I'm good at being able to do that. So like at the end of the day, I do make a lot of impact on people's lives, and I do help to transform a lot of people's lives, and that's the only thing I could ever come here to this planet to, we're here to be of service to each other. And there's just nothing more gratifying than seeing somebody else live their best life and see somebody else transform their life and seeing that something that you did help to inspire and make a difference for them. I mean, so to just for me to be remembered as an inspiration that really that was somebody that lived with integrity and dignity, and somebody who lived as the full example of that I mean, really, and that my gift would just live on through those that I've already been able to be touched, that I've been able to touch their lives, and that work continues, that they move that work into the lives of their friends, their families, and their loved ones, and that it transfers. That would be the best, right?
Wow, that was a amazing assumption, beautiful, intentional application of what you want your legacy to be. Thank you for sharing that. That was amazing.
You're welcome.
Cool. How are you? How can I help you? How can my millions of followers get in touch with you? Where can we get in touch with you? How can we, are you taking coaching clients? What is it that we can get in contact with you? How is that best?
Well, thank you. Well, always on our website, bombayroomyoga.com.
Mhm.
And here, yeah, are calling us at 954-567-1110. That's the phone number here to the studio, and that's for all of our services. And our email, bombayroomyoga@yahoo.com. All of those options are available to get in touch with what we offer here. We have a lot of classes, a well-rounded yoga studio that offers a variety of different styles and types of classes, including meditation, and also the events that are tuned in to being able to help us get more in touch and tuned with these areas of ourselves that will help us to relinquish all of that we're not, and really bring us more into who we really are. And I think that's the biggest thing as well, is that most people don't know who they are. You ask people who they are, they have no idea who they are, and until you know who you are, like it's a life that is just a lot of confusion. So we want to build more clarity in that, and that's what I love to help people do in the chakra alignment sound healing experience that we offer here. That's a great opportunity to start getting in touch with more of who you really are.
Something
And
I plan to ever miss. Sound, that's where I am.
I love it. You've done what, 3 of them now, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
that's for sure.
yeah, it's a powerful thing, and it's necessary. Honestly, it's necessary for our evolving as a human race and a human consciousness. It's necessary that we dive into the inner world of ourselves, because again, the outside world is just the reflection of what's going on in the inner world. And so change the inner world, we change the outer world, but everything begins within. It all begins with us as each individual's here. So it's necessary that we take the steps to disconnect from the outside world and connect to the world within. And that's what I love to offer, what we have here that is available at Bombay Room Yoga, because at a lot we offer that, which is a little bit different than on a different level and scale than some of the other spaces that are out there, that it might just be on a full physical realm. So Well, I would love to, we have mindful thinker group discussion talks here too at the studio. You've been to those as well. We like to create a community of people here that are like-minded, that want answers to questions that they have, that are asking questions about how does this stuff work. They're still a little bit confused, or they want to know how to apply it to their life. That's a great opportunity if it wasn't on a one-on-one coaching basis. Real best results get working one-on-one, but the mindful thinker group talk is definitely a way. We're also working to build an online presence a little bit more so on YouTube as well. So we do have a YouTube channel. There's not much on it yet, but there is definitely more to come. All those mindful thinker group discussion talks have been recorded, so they will be out there. And so there's a lot of great information that can be shared that have been in those conversations that will be on YouTube soon.
Hmm. I know that's been a great option for me in terms of like some of the questions that I've had today. And manifestation isn't the easiest thing to understand, maybe
Right.
effortless, but I think getting in touch with you, someone who's educated, who's been practicing for a while, definitely helped me a lot. And I think that that mindful thinker and just other options were great for me. I'm sure they can serve many, many other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any last words? Thank you again. Such amazing. So amazing.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just hope that we all recognize the power that lies within us, and that we are here to create our reality, and that I just hope everyone can do what they love and love what they do, and have that passion for life and really love themselves and love life. And in that we start to create a better world, because there's just more positive energy that's being transported, right?
More of the
when
magic.
Yeah. So I hope everyone finds their way into that, but everyone's on their own journey, their own path, and they all come to the light whenever they're ready. And, that's different for everyone. So just offering out unconditional love in that respect to the whole, because everyone is on their journey. There's no right or wrong. We're just here along our paths, finding our own way, and that we would find more love and less judgments of each other. So, unconditional love is scarce, but we want to create more of that within ourselves, for ourselves, because the more we have it for ourselves, then the more love we have to give to the whole. So it's all about tuning ourselves back, finding self-love. So love you, heal you, we heal the world.
Such a pleasure. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. Bye.
Bye.